Hi, this is Travis Shaw with the Virginia Piedmont Heritage Area, coming to you today from one of the more recognizable landmarks in our heritage area, the Aldie Mill. Now, the Aldie Mill has stood here at the center of the village of Aldie since the early 19th century, and by the spring of 1862, it also stands at the heart of a growing guerrilla conflict between the United States Army and local Confederate partisans. Very early in the pre-dawn hours of March 2nd, 1863, a column of troopers from the 18th Pennsylvania Cavalry is going to ride westward along the Little River Turnpike, this road that's just over my shoulder here, with the ultimate objective of reaching the village of Middleburg, just a few miles to the west. Now, their mission in Middleburg is to round up Confederate partisans who have been operating out of the area, which was a well-known nest of Confederate sympathizers. Now, when they reach Aldie early in the morning of March 2nd, they are not going to find any Confederate guerrillas operating in the village. So instead, they will take a number of local men hostage, old men, young boys, with the idea that they might be able to interrogate them and find out more about Confederate operations in the area. The 18th Pennsylvania is also going to be joined in Middleburg by a number of enslaved individuals. These people see the presence of the Union troopers as the perfect opportunity to emancipate themselves and flee towards Union lines and out of bondage. So the 18th Pennsylvania, along with their prisoners and along with these newly liberated people, are going to return again past the Aldie Mill eastwards along the Little River Turnpike. Now, when they reach the eastern outskirts of the village of Aldie in the vicinity of what's now Gilbert's Corner, they are going to notice shadowy figures on horseback off in the distance. Now, fearing that these might be Confederate raiders and that they might have just stumbled into an ambush, the members of the 18th Pennsylvania are going to scatter in every direction, leaving both their prisoners and these newly liberated people behind. Now, much to their chagrin, they are later going to find out that it was not foe, but friend that they had stumbled across in the pre-dawn hours. They were members of the 1st Vermont Cavalry heading westward on the turnpike on a very similar mission, coming into the northern Virginia Piedmont in search of Confederate partisans. Now, the Vermonters probably had a really good laugh about all this, watching the Pennsylvanians scatter. They are going to secure the prisoners. They're going to secure the newly liberated enslaved individuals. And they are going to settle in on the grounds here of the Aldie Mill to prepare their breakfast. They've been riding all morning. It's very chilly, so they're going to start fires to prepare their coffee, to cook up a little bit of food, and to rest their horses before continuing on. Now, unbeknownst to the Vermonters, Confederate partisans are now beginning to gather in Middleburg. Famous partisan commander John Mosby is going to be there, and he's going to hear from the townspeople what has transpired that morning. And he is going to set off riding as fast as he can down the turnpike with 16 other Confederate guerrillas to try and liberate those townspeople who had been taken prisoner and to try and recover the enslaved individuals who had run off. And he is going to encounter the 1st Vermont as they have basically taken a breakfast stop here at the Aldie Mill. Those Confederate partisans are going to ride in as fast as they can, and they are going to scatter the men of the 1st Vermont Cavalry, just as the Pennsylvanians had scattered earlier that morning. Now, this event goes down in history as the Aldie Races because of how fast those Union cavalrymen fled the village of Aldie. Many of them fled eastwards along the turnpike for the safety of Union lines out towards Fairfax. Some others actually took refuge within the mill itself and were found hiding in the flour bins of the Aldie Mill. And a lot of later commentators write about how funny it was to see these Union prisoners covered head to toe in flour as they're marched out of Aldie. Now, for John Mosby himself, he runs into a little bit of embarrassment as well. He's riding a newly captured horse that he is not used to. That horse basically takes off at a breakneck speed down the turnpike and ends up throwing Mosby off and into the muddy waters of Little River. So Mosby himself is covered head to toe, not with flour, but with mud. So this column is going to return to Middleburg later that morning. We can imagine the joy and relief felt by the Middleburg civilians who have been, freed from Union captivity. But that is also counterbalanced by the absolute tragedy and trauma felt by the enslaved individuals who had literally felt freedom slip through their grasp that morning. I've been so close to liberation within Union lines. Now, the Aldie Races, as I said, kind of goes down in history as one of the building blocks of the myth of John Singleton Mosby. This event really helps to show his mettle as an effective partisan leader, as someone who can seemingly strike out of nowhere very quickly, catch his opponents off guard, and then fade away with the mission accomplished. And just a few months later, in June of 1863, John Mosby is going to be given his commission to raise the 43rd Battalion of Virginia Cavalry, which will go on to be known as Mosby's Rangers, and will certainly go on to be a thorn in the side of Union forces for the last 2 years of the war, as well as frequent visitors to the village of Aldie. So thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to learn more, you can always visit the Virginia Piedmont Heritage Area at www.piedmontheritage.org.